On Mother's Day, my two ginger-haired babies woke me up bearing gifts. Well, they aren't babies anymore, they're 8 and 11, but that's always how I'll see them. And to be honest, I don't remember what they got me. To my husband's credit, it was probably something like breakfast in bed, maybe flowers and a small gift. It was all so beautiful until my daughter told me she had one more gift for me. She said her gift was that she was not going to use potty words for the whole day. She's 8 years old. She has a mess of curly red hair, and I call her my karmic retribution. So I sat up in bed and held my breath as I asked her what she meant by potty words. And I have to admit to you that part of the reason I was nervous here is because I have a bit of a potty mouth myself. So I wasn't totally sure what she was going to say. You know when you're in that place where you have no idea what's going to come out of someone's mouth? Yeah, there I was. But she said proudly, I'm not going to use the words poop, pee, or fart all day long. Parenting win. So remember I called her my karmic retribution. Well, there was once another 8-year-old little girl with a mess of curly dark hair who woke up one morning and decided she wasn't going to go with the status quo anymore. See, I was the youngest of 3 kids. I was always easygoing, and I was always getting dragged along to watch my brother and sister play baseball and softball. But one morning, I marched into my parents' room and said I had an announcement. Like me, they sat up in bed and held their breath, not sure what was going to come out of my mouth. But I said proudly, I'm not going to another bleeping ballpark. I want to be on stage. Okay, I didn't say the bleeping part, but I did tell them that I was not going to be a spectator of their lives anymore and that my wants and opinions mattered. My dad said he was so surprised because he just assumed that I wanted to go to the ballpark because I hadn't said otherwise. But how often are issues caused by us assuming or projecting our wants and needs onto other people? I started standing up for myself then, and I haven't stopped. I didn't even know it was conflict. I just knew that I was going to speak my truth, even if it was different than someone else's. I've certainly passed that fire on to my daughter, and I'd like to pass it on to you today. So what words come to mind when you hear the word conflict? Shout it out, come on. Problems, fear, I'm not touching that, what else? Winning, all right, arguments, right? Have you ever thought that conflict was just as bad as a potty word? Well, not me. I love conflict. I don't go around picking fights with people or looking for ways to argue with them. I just know the value of conflict. And looking back, my love of conflict was cemented right here at Georgia College. At that point, we knew I wasn't going to be a competitive softball player, but my sport turned out to be leadership. And I had a coach too. Well, an advisor, but she seemed like a coach because she was always in a t-shirt and shorts, always a little sweaty, and always kept it real with us. She taught this kid how to manage a committee of 20 different opinions, and that conflict was not a competitive sport because it's not about winning. I'll never forget her exact words because I've offered them to countless others over the years. And you know, being here today, it's almost like I can hear her saying it to me again. Y'all need to learn how to manage conflict with each other because you'll see these people again. They'll have different names and different faces, but your interactions will be the same. She was right. And all these 20 years later, I've spent my career helping others learn the same. To my advisor's point, a study by the Myers-Briggs Company in 2022 found that conflict has more than doubled in the workplace in the last 15 years, but only 22% of us feel good about it. So that's maybe like the first 4 rows here that feel good about conflict, and everybody else, not so much. So we're in a place where there's more conflict, but the vast majority of us don't like it. What about you? How do you feel when you're in conflict? Do your palms get a little sweaty? Does your heart beat a little faster? Maybe you get a shiver up your spine or have a knot in your stomach? We may not see conflict, but can you feel it? And because of these fight or flight reactions, have you ever avoided conflict? Maybe acted a little aggressively, or better yet, passive aggressively? Have you ever gotten defensive during conflict? Have you ever uttered a potty word in that moment? These reactions don't feel good to us. They may ultimately feel worse than if we had just engaged in the conflict in the first place. And these reactions have consequences: stress, stagnation, resentment, missed opportunities for innovation. Again, not feely good words. For these reasons, people avoid conflict or try to eliminate it altogether. But what if conflict isn't something to fear or avoid? What if conflict is generative? What if conflict, when embraced and managed effectively, can lead to significant personal and collective growth? Conflict happens when two or more parties have opposing interests, beliefs, or needs. But come on, how boring would it be if we didn't have opposing beliefs? We need those differences to move society forward. And I believe there's a sweet spot to conflict. When you have too little, there's probably some passive-aggressive behavior happening. You've seen it. Nobody's speaking up, nothing's getting done. If we have too much, that can lead to fear or distrust. People don't feel safe to share their opinions. And again, nothing's getting created. But how do we find that sweet spot? Can we start to shift away from the idea that conflict is a potty word? Part of the answer to this question is to start to love conflict when we're young. A study in the Journal of Social Work in 2020 found that teaching children to engage in constructive conflict in educational settings can help improve their critical thinking and perspective taking. So teaching kids to love conflict when they're young actually helps their brains develop in a positive way. Conflict is biologically and psychologically good for us. Who knew? Engaging in conflict can help us be better decision makers. It helps us thrive under pressure. Psychologists have also studied conflict as a catalyst to help us improve adaptability and increase creativity. We want all of those things, right? Well, just because we're not kids anymore doesn't mean it's too late to start to love conflict now. We're here to learn from scholars at TEDx. So I'd like us to learn from another great scholar and another notable TED, Ted Lasso. Okay, some of y'all know him. Good, good. If you're not familiar, Ted Lasso is a TV character in a show by the same name. He's a big-hearted, big-mustached American football coach in a t-shirt and shorts. He moves to England to coach football there, because you know it would have been a potty word to call it soccer. Despite having no experience with the sport, Ted uses his growth mindset to help his players not just be better athletes, but better human beings. He's disarming and endearing, and he has his own potty words like ding, dang it, and fiddlesticks. But along the way, he teaches us some great lessons about conflict. Ted approaches everything with empathy and curiosity. When the owner of the football team and his boss makes an apparent joke about her own father, Ted says, "If that's a joke, I'll love it. If not, I can't wait to unpack that with you later." He's approaching her with empathy and support in a lighthearted way in what could have otherwise been a pretty awkward situation. But empathy means more than just understanding someone's feelings. It means connecting with them on an emotional level. And if you pair that with curiosity, you've got a winning approach to conflict. When we engage with curiosity, we allow ourselves to ask meaningful, open-hearted questions. And we even give ourselves permission to change our opinions based on the new information that we find. Did you know you could do that? Approaching conflict as a learning opportunity. In that way, we can say, instead of saying, I failed, we can ask ourselves, what did I learn from the situation, and what can I do differently next time? We're seeking to understand, presuming good intent, and trying to approach conflict a little more like Ted. So picture it with me, a world where no one is afraid of conflict, but sees it as a natural and valuable part of life. What would it look like if we all loved conflict? What if we decided here today to stop treating conflict like a potty word? In case you've been wondering this whole time, my sweet ginger-haired girl did not make it through Mother's Day without saying any potty words. As a matter of fact, just the other day, she came up to me and told me she wanted to tell me a story, and then just said, poop, poop, poopity poop, poop, over and over again. But we don't make it through most days without conflict either. So the next time you're facing a conflict, I want you to remember to love it. And this dark-haired girl hopes the only thing close to a potty word that you'll say is hell yeah.